Good morning, everyone. Mike here. I've got a great video for you this morning. Today, we are downstairs at the farm, actually, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about refrigeration setups, ways you can keep your mushrooms cool. I've got a deep freeze right here that I have converted into a refrigerator just for the time being. And this is actually the setup. I'll talk to you about how I did that. This is actually the setup I used when I originally started farming mushrooms, and I just needed a little more refrigeration space. I bought an extra refrigerator, and I quickly realized that was not going to cut it. So I knew I was going to need something a little more, and the deep freeze was the answer. I did not have much money to invest in a walk-in cooler. Okay, so in the beginning, if you do not want to make the investment in a walk-in cooler, this is my recommendation. I love this setup. I have had one problem with it. And I will tell you, it was entirely my fault. I will tell you how to avoid that because it was a catastrophic failure. Okay, so we're gonna go over that so you guys do not have failures with this setup. But honestly, this is a flawless setup, and like I said, I'm talking about a failure. That's not going to happen to everybody. That was a fluke, and it was. I have a story behind it, so I like to tell my stories about my failures, so that way you guys can learn. But now at the farm, see, I will have a walk-in cooler. I'm standing right next to my new walk-in. It's an 8-foot by 10-foot walk-in cooler. I have not finished the electric in there completely. That will probably get done this next week, and then I'll actually make a video on the walk-in cooler. So I still had my spare deep freeze, okay? And I plan on using it as a freezer, to tell you the truth. But since I was in here organizing stuff, kind of setting things up, cleaning up the other day a little bit, I stumbled across my temperature controllers, okay? And I had been thinking about hooking my temperature controller up on this freezer just so I would have a refrigerator, because I don't have a refrigerator in here right now, guys. And I was just using the deep freeze, okay, as a deep freezer. Once I actually got this building up, if you didn't know, I built this building from the ground up. I'll have more videos on the construction about that, but I do have some back in my other videos if you want to look back through them. But I was living in a shipping container until I got this building built. And then once I got this building built and I decided to bring my deep freeze in because I had that stored out in the container, I brought it in. We got some power in here. I powered it up. And I was like, man, I need to treat myself a little bit. So I started filling it with stuff. And like I'd put meat in there and I'd have to like defrost it. But I have this bad habit that I started putting ice cream bars in it. And now I've developed this ice cream bar habit. So we need to stop that. And as I was kind of going through stuff the other day, I was like, you know what? I can like hook this controller up, make a video for these guys and show them how I used to set this up. And then I can fill this thing with chicken breast and not ice cream bars anymore because it's a refrigerator. And maybe it'll keep me from eating so many ice cream bars. When ultimately I should just develop self-discipline. But, you know, this will work too, right? And plus I can teach you guys. So let me flip this thing around. I want to show you like how this thing is set up and how it works and all that good stuff, and powers the freezer up. It's super simple and it's very cheap. Like I said, this is a $30 controller on Amazon, and I had been messing with this thing a little bit this morning. So if you're looking at the numbers on here or the values, I've had this freezer open and close. So if the numbers look funny, it is what it is. But it's a refrigerator right now, okay? And I'll show you guys. So let me flip. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel and keeps content like this coming your way. Now back to the cooler. So first, okay, it does not flash like that in person. This right here, that 4 degrees Celsius, that is the desired value. That 0.6 degrees is what it actually is inside there right now. And it's got this heating thing illuminated, and that's because it is not supposed to be cooling right now, okay? And if you look on the cooling portion, that is where the deep freeze itself plugs in. The heat part, you don't have to put anything in there. But see, this temperature controller, you can essentially use it for anything. It's not just for this. And then you have like a temperature probe, okay? And then right here, there we go. And just because it got a little cold because I was screwing around with this thing, it's 31 in here right now. But normally this thing will hang around 40 or so when when you're not messing with it and it's all set up properly. But you can see basically the temperature probe right there gets the reading, okay, and then it tells the controller what temperature it is, and then the controller just basically decides whether or not to turn on the freezer. So it's a simple setup. Now, let's talk about Mike's catastrophic failure a little bit and how to avoid that. What happened? What actually even happened? Okay, so that temperature probe. Okay, as you can see, I just had it dangling around. Okay, it would just flop around in there. That can cause you problems. Okay, because this is just temporary for me. I'm not concerned about it. If you are setting one of these things up, you need to take that probe and you need to secure it in the freezer. You need to like duct tape it on the wall of the freezer or something, because what can happen is this probe, if you're in here messing around, that probe can just fall out, okay? And that's actually why it was extra cold in there for a little while, because I had that probe out a little bit messing with this thing, and it made the freezer turn on. But when that probe comes out and it senses the ambient temp, okay, it turns the freezer on, all right? Because it thinks the freezer is warm on the inside, but really you just have the probe on the outside of the freezer, okay? So there was one night, Friday night before the farmer's market, Mike's harvesting mushrooms. I had my freezer full of mushrooms. I mean, super full. And I had some really cool king oysters in there, like really cool ones. I had a king oyster in there, dude. I remember it was like 14 ounces. That's one mushroom. It was giant, okay? And then I woke up the next day, getting ready to go to the farmer's market, okay? Get into my freezer, pop that sucker open, and what happened? I realized all of my mushrooms were frozen. And it was because the night before, when I was rushing, I had knocked that probe out and I didn't realize I did it. Okay. So make sure you don't accidentally do that, because it pretty much ruined my whole day at the farmer's market the next day. Okay. I learned never ever to do that again. Okay. And that morning I was able to go into my grow room and just pick whatever I could. But that night, like I said, I just accidentally knocked that probe out. Everything froze. So that is the one thing that can occur with something like this. But like I said, that was my own fault. So just try to be careful if you do a setup like this. But this is great for the beginner farmer or just somebody on a budget, or if you don't want to spend much money on it. Because I got my freezer for free. The controller was $30. Like, you can't beat that. And that kept me going for years, like 7-8 years. I was keeping my mushrooms cool in that, and now you can, when you're not using it, you can keep ice cream bars on it. But anyway, guys, that is all I got for you today. I hope you found this video helpful and informative. I will do a video on my walk-in once that thing is completed, and you guys can see what a big walk-in cooler looks like and how to build one yourself. But that's all I got for you today, guys. I will catch you on the next one.